Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Dr. Adesanya show. You're welcome, and I'm glad that you're here today. Today I have another interesting topic, and I'm Dr. Adesanya, and of course, it's the um, Adesanya show, the Dr. Adesanya show. This is where I help SMEs thrive, and of course, everything I share here is for informative and educative purposes only. All right, today I want to share. Something that is common right now. I know this is tax season, and so the what I'm sharing today is about mileage, right? Mileage, use of the car for the business, right? And the question here or the topic here is what works best. Do you claim, the IRS mileage or you do actual? You can either use the IRS mileage rate, which is set yearly, or you can say, you know what, I'm going to use the actual. Actually, it's the actual expense, right? Um, what might somebody might be wondering, what is the big difference? Well, for the mileage the IRS sets, right? The mileage rate includes general maintenance, includes insurance, registration. So they come up with a figure and say, okay, this is what is going to be used yearly, right? That is mileage rates. Of course, there are other factors or other analysis that that are put in place or are considered with within that rate, right? I mean, again, I said oil, um, repairs, insurance, fixed and variable costs. Well, on one side, that's how they get their their mileage rates. All right. Flip side, when we're looking at the actual, is of course, actual is what it means. How much did you actually spend on repairs, right? How much did you actually spend on gas? How much did you actually spend on licensing, or things like that for the car? All right. So what works best? You might be wondering what works best. Okay, so let me start on the actual side. All right. The actual side, right? You can say, you know what, I want to use the actual amount I spent, right? Well, this might actually result in a higher amount depending, right? Why would I say that? Because, maybe, remember the amount that is set by the IRS is just a general amount. Maybe you have, for example, higher higher expense like depreciation, for example. Now, things like depreciation really most of the time is really based, of course, I'm just going generally. I'm not digging in, but just know that usually when you don't use your car up to 50% of the time, there are some types of depreciation that you cannot use, right? 50% or more, at least 50% or more. If you use your car, maybe you are, for example, a nurse practitioner and you're a psych nurse and you work from home most of the time. Um, your business will not really require you going out, right? Because you work from home, right? And I mean, you can see patients anywhere and everywhere, right? If you have that, like, for example, that kind of profession, in that case, um, it's very rare for you to see somebody using that car more than 50%, unless the person is someone that is a psych nurse, has their business at home, but also goes out a lot to see patients, right? But that's just an example. There are very many examples out there, but I just want you to look at it as, using, I mean, just a common, well, not, I mean, one of the examples. There are many common examples, but in this case, just think of it. Someone is consulting, or you could even be a consultant online, right? So how to into, using the cover 50%. And many people make that mistake. Oh yeah, I can put anything I like. No, you cannot put anything you like. Make sure that, we're talking about actual. Now, actual means that how much you spend on gas, how much you spend on I mean repairs. No, those are the actual figures you want to use for actual, right? Now, another thing, of course, is of knowing the number of miles, right? I mean, in this case, well, you don't really, for the actual, you don't really, I mean, you don't, I mean, they are, I mean, the, we usually our software asks, but yes, because the reason why it's asked, yes, it's good to know. I'm just going to analyze that a little bit more. It's good to know because unless the car is 100% for business, right? You don't really need to know the percentage of use for business and for personal. 100%, 100%. But if the vehicle is used for a percentage for let's say for personal use, maybe you have a vehicle, maybe maybe 60% of the vehicle is used for business, 40% is used for personal use. What happens when we calculate the amount used for business, we always calculate, let's say 60%, let's say use maybe $5,000 on repairs. 60% of that $5,000 will go towards the business deduction, not the 5,000 completely. All right. So that's what we see when it comes to the mind using actual. Now on the flip side, right? When you look at the mileage part of it, the only thing you need to come up with in this aspect is know how many miles you drove for the business. Like using the same example, you just know them. You don't even you forget about how much you spent. Of course, parking and tolls is I mean you still have to if you have parking and tolls, you can deduct that separately. But when they say repairs and maintenance, gas, no, you don't have to worry about that. Just know the mileage. Know the mileage. How many miles did you drive for the business? Maybe you total miles for the year. You maybe drove 10,000 miles for the year. Maybe 60% of the miles that you drove for business, right? And of course, please keep records. Keep records, right? It's very important. Now, why would you choose the mileage as opposed to the actual? One thing about the mileage that is so great, using the mileage rate, is that you don't have to keep track of every single expense for the car. Right. So if you're very good in keeping track, and like you're very, oh my goodness, you're so okay, fine. But a lot of people don't have that. They're not that good. So the mileage really works for such a person or such people because nobody says, oh, you spent do you really spend that kind of money? No. But the only thing for looking at the mileage aspect, the only thing that is very important is making sure you know how to track your miles, make sure that this is my business miles. I mean, there's so many apps out there that can help you track your miles for business. It's so important. All right. So that is the huge thing when it comes to using the mileage rate. Great that you don't have to worry about you know, keeping documents for gas and repairs. No, but you do have to worry about keeping documents for the actual business miles, right? That's very important. On the flip side, the actual is documentation all the way around, making sure that you can defend that expense, right? Yeah, so you might say, oh, but you want more money, right? To be deducted. You might get more, but at the end of the day, if you can't defend those expenses, right? Can't you defend, oh yeah, I feel like I spent these repairs. Meanwhile, you're not sure, and you're using that to deduct um you're using that as a business expense. What happens is that when you're audited and after being audited and they find and there's no evidence of that 3,000 repairs or 5,000 or something that you put there, the the big issue there is that you're going to have to, in fact, what happens, IRS will just put back the money and you have to pay taxes. In fact, um, even interest and penalty from the time that you made that expense deduction. And I want to stress here, there is nothing wrong with having actual expense, using the actual expense way, doing it the actual expense way, I would say. Nothing wrong. But if you have issues with keeping documentation when it comes to things like that, then that might not that way will not work for you. But you know what? If you're so meticulous, people, oh, very meticulous, they keep their oh yeah, very good. But the most important thing when we're looking at tax deductions is can you defend it? All right. If you can defend it, if you have adequate documentation, great. And also as one of the things that we might say, oh, but yeah, I'll go with the mileage part of it, but there's still something to defend. And what is that really to defend? Is the number of miles, business miles. You have to make sure when you're saying that, you know what, I drove 6,000 business miles. I drove 20,000, 15,000 business miles, 20,000. You have to defend it, right? Yes, I had a business meeting here. I had this here. Yeah, there's nothing wrong too. But always make sure you're able to substantiate your miles, right? When it comes to both sides, right? Of course, on the actual side of it, you have to get do more. All right. You have to make sure you document more or get documentation substantiation more. All right. All right. So whichever you choose, make sure you really analyze it with your professional, with your accountant, and if you don't have one that you're working with, we're here. All right, you can always come to connect to me with my firm. Uh, All right. Thanks for being here. All right. See you next time. Bye for now. And